Welcome back to the Against All Odds, the Less Than 1% Chance podcast with your host, Maria Ponte, where we will hear stories of incredible people thriving against all odds. And my hope is that we can all see how life is always happening for us, even when we are the less than 1% chance. Hey, welcome back to Against All Odds, the Less Than 1% Chance podcast with your host, Maria Aponte. Today we have a guest. I'm so excited. All right, so this woman has the most incredible story of Against All Odds, and I just want to shout her out a bit, and I wanted her to tell her story because I think it's so important. This is something very near and dear to my heart, not from something that I went through myself, but something that a loved one went through. And it's always so amazing to hear the stories of those people that have survived some of the most darkest moments. And so this is Dawn Smith. Welcome. So she is a domestic abuse survivor, a suicide survivor. She felt lost and ashamed after her divorce because she felt like she had stayed too long and felt like less than. It's taken a while to find her place and her confidence, and today she stands in her truth and how she can help and impact others with her story. So Dawn, welcome to my
Thank you
podcast.
so much for having me. I'm so very excited. This is my first podcast. So there you go.
Well, that's even more exciting. I met Dawn at an event last year, the very event where I stated that I was going to make a podcast and that I stated it was with our mindset coach, Brad. He will be on at one point because I have spoken about him so very much that he needs to some people need
Parents.
like reference. People need Brad in their life. And so that's how I met Dawn. I met her through our mindset coach, Brad. We were both at this event last May, and she was able to tell her story on stage. And I was blown away. And I'm so excited to have her on because I hope that this helps impact people in your life and helps people know that they're strong enough to overcome all situations. So, Dawn, what happened 17 plus years ago, and how was your life impacted so greatly?
So growing up, I'm just gonna start growing up. I never had the boyfriend. I never was the popular one. I was always the one kids made fun of. So one day when my friend and I went to a bar, she's like, "Hey, you want to go with me?" I'm like, "Sure." And this guy started talking to me out of nowhere. Come on, somebody's showing me attention. And I don't know if it was just because I hadn't had that attention, that it was just something so new and so real for me that we went outside, we started chatting, and he seemed cocky, arrogant. And I'm like, maybe he's nervous. And then he asked if he could kiss me. And I'm like, sure, why not? And then he gave me his business card and said, give me a call. I'm like, I am not going to call this guy. No way, no how. Because there was just something about him, just the arrogance. And so when I got home, I threw the card on the kitchen table. My mom's like, well, what can it hurt? Why don't you call him? Too bad I can't blame my mom for this, right?
No.
So things rapidly progressed. And, I didn't know a lot about his past and I didn't know a lot of what he was into. But 6 to 8 months later, we were driving to Vegas and we decided to get married. So it was a really quick turnaround because at that point I wanted somebody to love me. And that's the whole purpose of this is I wanted somebody to love me. I wanted to feel the love that I saw so many other people having. Like I didn't see that growing up, so I didn't have good role models. That's the part that was really hard is I didn't have those role models. My parents were divorced. My dad was a really good guy, but my mom got remarried again, and that was all abusive. So that's what I saw, that's what I knew. And even my ex's parents, they were divorced, but yet they were still together.
Yeah.
He cheated on her. So, I didn't have those solid role models. It was just the verbal abuse then started. It was verbal abuse. It wasn't so much the physical abuse at first,
Okay.
but it was a lot of,
Was that like it immediately at the beginning after you got married or even before then?
it had started before then. And it was to the point, it was like he made me feel like nobody else would love me. I was kind of stuck. Don't ever feel that you're stuck in a situation like that, because you always deserve so much more than what somebody's telling you you're worth. The only person that can determine that is yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
And so the verbal abuse started, then you guys got married, it continued.
Yes, it continued. So at that point, I had felt so much less than anything that, like, one day I was staying with my friend and I overdosed on meds. And I came out of her bathroom and I said to her, I said, I think I just overdosed. She called the paramedics. They got me to the hospital. And my doctor said to me, he goes, you overdosed on the one of your meds that wouldn't do anything for you. And I beat myself up for that because I'm like, I can't even commit suicide right. That's how much worth I felt I had in myself. But then at that point, also looking back now, it's the greatest gift I gave myself because I'm here, I'm sharing my story.
Yeah. So this happened, how far into your marriage did you attempt that?
It was like a good 7, 8 years into our marriage.
Wow.
And I look back and I always say, I wish I had known sooner. I wish I'd had the help sooner. But I just kept letting it go and letting it go because I didn't know how to let go.
Yeah.
When I got married, I was that person that was said, it's going to be forever. I don't care what the circumstances are, because you don't go into marriage thinking I'm going to get divorced.
Yeah.
That was another thing that held me back. But, you know, from the attempted suicide to getting evicted from our house to being homeless on the streets. I mean, I've been through it all. I've
Yeah.
been through it all. And kind of the last straw was with my dad. My dad lived with me and he was in a wheelchair and he couldn't defend himself. And he would hear all this fighting and arguing between me and my ex. And at one point, I said to him, you've got to stop. You've just got to stop doing this. He even abused my cat. And yeah, my cat, he would spray water at him. And of course, cats are defensive. They're going to like hiss and growl, but mine actually cowered back because he was so afraid of him.
Wow.
And so I said, you know what? I'm done.
So was he physically abusive to your dad as well?
No, but my dad couldn't
No.
stick up for himself. So
Yeah.
I told him, I said, you know what? I've had enough of you. You need to get out. And then he hit me. And he hit me so hard, it left bruises the size of coins on my. And yeah, there was physical abuse before, but it was where nobody could see it because I'm not
Yeah.
going to show it. But then I started showing it because I'm like, you know what? People need to see this. So I went and got a restraining order against him.
Oh my gosh. And you said you were in how long into your marriage at that point?
This would be like 10 years now,
Wow.
10, 11 years. And it was just something I had to do. And it was more so for my dad because I knew I could protect myself, but he couldn't protect himself. My ex ended up going to stay with a friend and he got in trouble with the law and he got arrested. So I'm like, you know what? Perfect opportunity. I went and hired a lawyer, and that's how my divorce came about.
Wow.
And so when he got served papers, he tried calling my lawyer to see if he would defend or be his lawyer too. And I'm like, no,
That
this
doesn't
isn't
make
gonna
any
happen.
sense.
So the day court came, I already knew he had been served, but he couldn't show up.
So
So
perfect to get that taken care of quickly.
yes, perfect ending. There was nothing to split. He had emptied everything I had. He emptied everything in my life. So it was just me and my dad. And I came back home from court. My dad's like, "Do I have a single daughter again?" And I'm like, "Absolutely."
Oh, that's amazing.
And I think that's the greatest gift I gave my dad.
Yeah. And you said he passed away a year after that.
Hmm.
So he did get to see you free
Hmm.
from the abuse.
Yes. Yes.
That's amazing. What did you find that you needed to overcome? And what did you do to overcome those? Obviously, aside from the abuse, but that's external. What did you need to overcome internally to get through this and essentially be free of it?
So, quite honestly, after the divorce, I needed to find my confidence. I needed to find out who I was. I didn't know who I was because that person was not me. I had gotten so far deep into things with him that I didn't know who I was anymore.
Yeah.
And that was really sad that and I was still, still fairly young. I was in my 20s, late 20s, early 30s at this point, and I'm like, who am I? But I'm going to tell you, I still went on bad dates because I thought that's what I deserved still.
Yeah.
But I didn't stick around those.
And so what, because now you are happily married to an amazing, incredible man.
13 years.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Lucky 13, right?
Right? That's amazing. Congratulations. How did you get to be able to, number one, trust somebody and trust yourself? Because I feel like that's part of regaining your confidence is learning to trust yourself to know that, this isn't a
Exactly.
cycle.
Exactly. It took me a while because I'm like, confidence was the one thing I really lacked. Trust is the one thing I really lacked because I'm like, how am I going to know that I can trust this person? Dennis and I actually chatted for like months on the phone before we even met
Good. Yeah.
because I'm like, I just can't. And we took things really slow. We took it slow. We just, because he had come out of a loss of losing his wife to cancer.
Oh,
So we
okay.
were both coming from different places of hurt.
Yeah.
And how do I
And
find that?
grief.
He's in grief. I'm in grief of losing my dad, for one,
Yeah.
and of losing a marriage and thinking this is what I deserved as a marriage. So
Yeah.
it was just really a lot to take in. And at one point while we were dating, he said, "I'm so glad that you're starting to trust me," because he goes, "That's going to be the biggest thing that we have to overcome is both of us."
Yeah. And like, as the person that comes after a relationship like this, that had to take a lot of patience on his end as well.
It did.
Um, because I would imagine he knows himself and what he would and wouldn't do,
Hmm.
but to have that patience to allow you to see that for yourself, I mean, that in itself is incredible.
He's pretty special. He
Yeah.
really is. And he had the patience. And every once in a while we'll hit back even to this day and he'll go, "You're not the same person you were when I first met you. You were quiet, you were reserved, you were still in a shell." He
Yeah.
goes, "You are not the same person I met."
That is not a bad thing.
No, he goes back in 2008, 2009, he goes, "You are not the same person." He goes, "I loved you then." He goes, "But I love you more now for who you are
Yeah.
and what you value and where you're going." So
Yeah, absolutely. So, what did you do to start building that self-worth, that self-confidence? What did you do for yourself?
early on, I went back to school. I got my degree. So I was working full time and I ended up graduating with honors. So
That's
that's pretty
amazing.
impressive. But along the lines, I was still kind of poking around to see what I could find, what would work for me. So I started going into coaching with health and wellness. And somewhere along the way, we had a guest speaker. And that guest speaker is the one we all know and love.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, this guy is too much for me. I always tell him that he was too
It's so
much for me.
funny. And so many people have said that, and I'm like, but you don't understand. This is him.
Yeah.
And you sometimes look at Brad and you're like, is this a facade? Are you really
Mhm.
this incredible?
Yeah.
And he really is.
And then I met him in person at an
Yeah.
event. I'm like, okay, he really is.
Yeah.
And so then I took the leap to work with him because I thought he was going to show me how to make my business successful.
Yeah.
And I realized that's not what I was there for.
No.
My bigger goal was to help women post domestic abuse find their
Yeah.
confidence within themselves first before entering another relationship, before going out somewhere else. You have to believe in love in yourself before you can do anything else.
Yeah, it's such an important lesson.
Mm.
I even tell my girls, I have two daughters, and I tell them all the time, like, there's no way you could love somebody truly if you don't love yourself.
Mhm.
And
I firmly
and
believe that.
it's like that is the big lie, right? You can't truly connect with somebody like authentically if what you think about yourself is less than.
Exactly.
And so how is this changing? What are you doing to be able to do this? I want to hear what was the transition of I need this self-worth, self-confidence and all
Mhm.
of this to I'm helping women be able
Yes.
to find that.
In reality, it was one conversation that I had with Brad, and he said, the confidence is already within you. You have to be able to do this, and this to flip that switch.
Yeah.
And he was right. He was so right. So in the past year, I mean, I've been speaking on stages, sharing my stories, helping to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for domestic abuse for a shelter that I work with. And this year, I am the head of the entire event for Wine, Women, and Shoes. So I am the current head chair for all of that.
Oh
It's
my gosh, Don,
crazy.
that's amazing. That is so incredible. So what does this charity do so that people
A,
know?
a safe place is they provide a continuum of services from beginning to end. Like when you first make that call, if that's where you're at, they kind of meet you where you're at. Like if you need the full service, I just left my relationship, they can help you find housing. They do court advocacy, they do counseling. And the newest thing that they're doing now that they just got a huge grant for, which so many people don't leave their house because they can't take their pets,
Mhm.
they now are opening a full service pet shelter
Oh, that's
so they can go
awesome.
with them because so many
That's
people
amazing.
won't leave because of that. But they offer the full spectrum of services wherever you're at, which is amazing.
Are they local to you guys or are they nationwide?
They are local to me, but they do have an 800 number, which I can provide you
Yeah,
later. I don't know it off the top of my head, but they can help you with services in your area if you can, if you're
perfect.
not local to me.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, because again, you never know what someone is
Mhm.
going through, and this may be the thing that shows them that they too can leave from
Mhm.
a situation that is dangerous for them.
Right.
And it really is admirable that you were able to stand your ground, and that just takes so much courage because that could go different ways, and that may be what stops somebody from taking that
Right.
that stance. I'm just so incredibly proud of you. So, where does it go from here? What are you doing now to help other women? I believe you have a course. Is that
I
correct?
do have a course. It is called the Empowerment Project Academy, and it's born out of my own experiences.
Yeah.
It was actually very therapeutic to create because it's a series of lessons about finding your happiness, finding your confidence,
Yeah.
and to know that it's okay to be where you're at now, because we all have to start and do the dark work and then
Yeah.
just kind of build up until you see the light, because eventually you will, and that light will be a ray of sunshine.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And I just finished creating a journal to go with it.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
I can't give away all my secrets about the journal because it's pretty remarkable.
Uh, no, obviously, we'll put all the links and everything so
Thank you.
that we can tag anybody that is interested can find that. What limiting beliefs do you feel you had to overcome in
Mhm.
order to get to where you are today and help others with those insights?
So the biggest one I always had to overcome was I'm not enough. I am not enough. I am never going to be good enough. And that was from my ex. And he always made me feel like I was about that small. So that's what I always believed. So just overcoming the fact that we are all enough. We are all enough. We were put on this earth for a reason. We are all enough to share our stories. We are all enough to be beautiful. We are all enough to be what we want to be.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love that. And was there, I guess, maybe signs along the way where it was like flickers of hope, maybe that you experienced that maybe someone can hear so that they'll see those flickers as well?
Well, I don't know if it's flickers as well as, I don't know, maybe signs of what abuse looks like and what it doesn't look like.
Yeah,
Abuse can be something so tiny as put downs, negative comments. It doesn't have to be physical abuse.
yeah,
It can be financial. I mean, they could have, you know, they could drain your bank accounts. They could do all kinds of things. They can control what you do, what you wear, what you say. That's abuse too. And
yeah,
you have to know that's not right.
yeah, absolutely. I love it. So now you are speaking on stages, which I think is incredible. How has that changed your life?
My thought is I know, like the first time I spoke on stage was at the event last year with Brad. And to have people come up to me and say, thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
They shared very personal stories with me. And it means it sparked something inside of somebody to say, you know what, that's not right.
yeah,
And if you can touch on just one person to make that difference, then it's going to be a ripple effect to help somebody else and somebody else. And it's going
yeah,
to break a cycle.
yeah. It's It's finding the purpose behind your pain.
Mhm,
And I say this all the time, life is happening for you and not to you.
mhm,
And that was one of my biggest takeaways myself. It's finding purpose in that pain. And it might not be the best situation right this moment or in your past, even. And if you can find a purpose within that, you can see that life is happening for you. Like that, you know, I mean, my daughter had an accident and immediately I was like, how is this happening for us? How is this happening for her? How is this happening for me and our family? And I immediately started finding the blessings in the chaos of what happened. And so it's incredible to finally feel that purpose to that pain that
mhm.
I feel like finding a reason is inhumane. I don't want a reason that this happened to you. I but I can find a purpose to it. It just makes it purposeful, and
Mhm.
not that it was ever okay, but it gave you a purpose to go and help others with it.
Exactly.
And it makes it impactful, and you leave a legacy with those things. I'm just so incredibly proud of you, and I am so grateful for Dennis and the role that he played in your life, because I think that's probably one of the hardest things, is to go back to, ugh, I don't know if I could open my heart up again
Mhm.
to somebody after something like this. And I just commend you. It is a scary moment in your life that you have found how to leave a legacy with. And I'm so proud.
Thank you so much.
So, anything else that you feel like you want to speak about or mention here?
Just that knowing that you are capable and can do anything,
Yeah.
because the belief starts from within.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. So, we will put all of the information for your course, for your journal in the show notes. I am so incredibly grateful to you, and for jumping on with me today, and for sharing your heart, and I'm so proud of the work that you're doing. I
Thank you.
can't wait.
I so appreciate you having me so I could share my story. And if I can just help one person, it makes
Yeah.
it all worth it.
It does. It does. Well, my dear, thank you so much. Friends, thank you so much for listening today. I am so incredibly honored that I was able to speak with Dawn, and that you guys are able to listen to this episode. If you have any comments and if you have any questions, please reach out. We will put all the information for phone numbers and websites and everything. But thank you so much for listening today. I hope you have a super fantastic rest of your day. Peace out, guys. Love your life. Bye bye.